Hello, my name is Nathaniel Hoover. I'm a staff writer for GameCola.net, and this is a video review slash walkthrough slash show-off video of Mega Man 3. Now, if Mega Man 2 was any indication, any minute now, we should have a really cool intro cutscene with awesome music and pretty graphics and a story that actually explains what's going on in this game. Okay, well, we got the good music covered, but story? Intro cutscene? Story? Please? Please? Really? Mega Man 3, you're killing me here. You let me down. I guess I'll just need to tell you what the story is, then. Mega Man has now defeated Dr. Wily, the Mega Man series villain, twice, and Dr. Wily has finally come to his senses. He's rejoining his former partner, Dr. Light, who created Mega Man, to work on a peacekeeping robot called Gamma. That's right, Dr. Wily has finally rejoined the light side. Get it? The light side. It's a joke, it's okay, you can laugh, jeez. Anyways, Mega Man is dispatched to 8 different mining worlds where he will pick up the materials necessary to build Gamma. Of course, these 8 mining worlds in outer space, I guess, doesn't really make any sense, but whatever, are mysteriously guarded by robots. Now, anyone who's played Mega Man 3 before will probably tell you not to go to Sparkman stage first. Granted, there are plenty of other places you could go that are really even worse ideas to start off with, but Sparkman has a couple strikes against him for good first pick. First of all, there are these Spark Nubs? Sliding across the floor and ceiling, shooting electricity between them. And they are kind of tough to dodge and require a bit more patience than you might like to actually figure out when they're going to fire off. And you can't kill them with anything. This is not cool, and it's a theme that we'll see again in Mega Man 3. Then there are these platforms. As soon as you touch them, they launch you up into the pretty ceiling of fun pointy spikes. Pfft, you die. And if you misjump, you fall into a bottomless pit. So all around, kind of difficult to start off with, kind of disheartening when you can't even get to the halfway point on your first try. Yeah, so not a good place to start. And Sparkman has a few other tricks up his sleeve before reaching them, as we'll see pretty shortly. There are chunks of junk that fall from the tubes in the ceiling. If you stand there and try and shoot them, as I'll demonstrate in a moment, they respawn very quickly, and another one takes its place just as quickly. So it's best to run, jump, and slide. Yes, you can slide in this game now through that section as quickly as possible. These evil blue bolts are evil. See, when combined with the platforms that fly up into the ceiling, it's almost guaranteed death, because those bolts, as they first start to come together, are invincible. You can't kill them with anything, so you have to wait or dodge out of the way pretty quickly. Not fun, really awful place that I got caught up on so often I couldn't beat until I got the jet utility that you get much later in the game if you're playing things in the proper order. And, but, you know, now I can do that safely, confidently, because I've had a lot of practice. And therapy. Oh, by the way, we're fighting Sparkman now. Just throwing that out there, you know, in case you were wondering what's going on here. And he can be a little bit tricky to dodge, but you just keep on him with the blaster, and he explodes. This is good. And then you get his weapon, you know, you jump up here, you absorb his power. Woo! And then you see your new menu screen, which I'll complain about in a little while. And you get his weapon, which I will complain about right now. Spark Shock is probably the worst weapon in the game. Well, actually, no, it's not quite the worst weapon in the game, but doggone it, it's close. Still, it is one of the worst weapons in the entire classic Mega Man series. Before I explain why, I'd like to shift gears to Snake Man. First, listen. Okay, you hear that? That intro music part, that part? Well, unless I am totally manufacturing this memory, that's almost exactly the same music that they use for the fantasy TV anime series Orphan. Isn't that cool? You don't really care, do you? No, you don't care. I tried. I'm trying. No, really, I'm trying. And it's a giant snake head. Now, I imagine most people's first inclination would be to go run up and stand on the wiggly parts to try and shoot him closer, but that's really a bad idea, because when you're wiggling, it's kind of hard to aim and jump properly, so it's best to just stand on the solid platform and fire at him with whatever you feel like. I'd like to use Hardman's weapon, but anything will do. Well, maybe not anything, but whatever you feel like. Those those large energy capsules up there, it's like they're getting soft on us. 2 energy refills? Big ones? Oh well. Now, here we are with a the continuation of my rant about Spark Shock. Here it is in use. It freezes an enemy in place. Doesn't do any damage to the enemy, but freezes it. Well, that's okay, because Iceman's weapon in the original Mega Man did that too. Except with Iceman's weapon, you could switch weapons after you had frozen an enemy. Here, you can't do that, and as Spark Shock doesn't do any damage, it just holds your enemy in place and gives you an extra obstacle to jump over. Pointless. Ugh. Not pointless are these mystery containers, the mystery capsules, I think they're called. Something like that. There's mystery involved. And they're good because when you fire at them, you get a random power-up. It's not always helpful, but when it is helpful. That sounds really stupid, doesn't it? Just forget I ever said that. Anyways, the interesting thing about Spark Shock that, I don't know, gives it some sort of noteworthiness at all, aside from the fact that it actually does pretty decent damage against a couple of bosses, that's really the only reason you should use it, is that when you freeze an enemy in place, it not only freezes one enemy, but it creates an electrified area around the enemy you hit, so any foe that enters this electrified field will also get short-circuited and freeze in place. Well, the interesting thing is that it's not just sort of a group, this clump of enemies that are frozen together. It can only hold one enemy at a time, this electrified field, so once another enemy moves into place, it'll bump the previously held one out. Interesting, but ultimately pointless. Now, this is probably the factory where Airman got all the air chariots that were carrying around the dudes that chuck lightning bolts at you in Mega Man 2. Well, that doesn't matter, but these platforms are very dangerous because if you stand on them as the cloud chariots pop out, there's a good chance that no two pieces of matter can occupy the same space, and you'll get shunted off the platform entirely and fall to your doom. Very bad glitch. Now, these clouds are not really clouds, as you've seen, they're bullets. The neat thing about this is, I believe, regardless of what weapon you use, the first shot always eliminates their cloud, quote-unquote, disguise, and then the second shot is what actually kills them. And it's Snake Man fight time. Well, Snake Man is another boss that you really shouldn't try to take on first or second. You should come here after you have a better weapon to fight him with, because the regular blaster just isn't really cutting it, doing one measly damage at a time. But if you stay in the middle and just jump over him when he's about to come up to this tall platform, you'll usually do pretty okay. But other than that, you're probably just gonna get creamed. Now, I have a little bit of trouble with Snake Man's size. It's not that he himself is too large. I think it's his tail, maybe, gives him a greater reach than before, but he, kind of like the charged-up spark shots from Spark Man himself, and Gemini Man, a couple of other projectiles and bosses in the game, I think the bounding box on him is just a little bit too large. The area, the invisible area that when you touch it, that's actually when you get hit. And so I think the bounding box on the bosses is slightly larger, at least for some of them, than the boss's actual size or shape. So you get hit when it looks like you shouldn't get hit. At least that's my perception of things, right or wrong. But I think I'm right. Anyhow, join me next video where, believe it or not, I start saying some positive things about Mega Man 3. Brace yourself.